Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe, alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall,
just happy to see
Kevin
you guys.
Wilds,
It's a good morning.
and guys,
good morning.
For 16 years since we started this show, I've been asking Nick Wright every single morning since LeBron has been playing, are you nervous? Are you worried? Are you concerned? He laughs at me, he ignores me, he moves on. For the first time, I can honestly not ask the question because I don't think there is a concerned cell in your body. Nick's a happy, relieved guy today. Five.
I'm not sure.
I
Brandon
can't wait to
Marshall
hear
may
that.
have something to say about
Sometimes
that.
Brandon fakes us out with his take. He's like, I'm not sure, and then he's like, no, I'm sure. Actually, I'm sure.
All right, well, here's why. Game 4, NBA Finals, Miami looking to tie up the series. Remember, Jimmy Butler said they would. Well, the Heat needed to keep looking. LeBron and AD in cruise control. The King finished 28, 12, and 8. Anthony Davis hit a clutch 3 with less than a minute to go to seal it for the Lakers. And even though Miami did get Bam Adebayo back, the Lakers seem to have had an answer for everything Miami threw at them last night. Lakers now 1 win away from their 17th title in franchise history. Here is LeBron James after the game.
When I woke up from my nap this morning after our team meeting, I just felt that. I felt that vibe. I felt that pressure. I felt like for me personally, this was one of the biggest games of my career. And just wanted to relay that message to my teammates, the type of zone I was in, the type of moment it was, because I just know how great of a team that we're playing against. And after the Game 3 win, that confidence that they had, that they still have, even after tonight's loss, they're just a gritty, so damn well-coached team. But I feel like if we want to be a championship ball club, if we really want to be a championship team, then we gotta have that same grit and that same attitude. So it's just my mindset.
LeBron James is dialed in. Nick, what was the key to last night's Lakers win?
Oh, well, to me, it's pretty obvious. You've got the best defensive player in the league, and he showed it in Anthony Davis by guarding Jimmy Butler. And you have the best player in the league who also doubles as the best closer in the league, and you saw it by his second half, most notably fourth quarter performance, because LeBron was bad in the first half. There's no way around it. After turning the ball over a bunch in Game 3, he turned the ball over a bunch early in Game 4. And, Jenna, if you were taking a Nick Wright nervousness test like you were alluding to earlier, around halftime I was thinking, well, this doesn't look great. LeBron is sloppy with the ball, the Heat feel good, and then everything changed. And in that fourth quarter, LeBron hit that turnaround jump shot you just saw. He made this impossible play, and those were the only baskets he made in the fourth, but he still finished with 11 fourth quarter points. Why? Because bad free throw shooting LeBron James went 7 of 7 from the free throw line and had the biggest assist of the night on the biggest swing play of the night, down to the Heat where Jimmy Butler misses an open corner 3, LeBron pushes up the court, and old KCP, old reliable Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hits a corner 3 of his own, the biggest swing play of the game right here with 3 minutes left. And so when you've got the best player in the league who will not allow his team to lose a fourth quarter lead, and you've got a defensive player in Anthony Davis who, Brandon, even if he doesn't have a great offensive night, his fingerprints are all over the game. That's how you go up 3-1 in the finals. That's how you're en route to winning the championship on Friday.
So you weren't at all nervous, Nick? Not a little?
Hand
Just
never
a little.
shook. Like in The Departed.
Bro,
never shook. Totally.
I'm sorry.
Totally
So at halftime,
drinking some echinacea.
hey, Jenna, it came down to stamina.
Ahead,
I mean, this was an old-fashioned, great defensive battle, extra possessions. This was just great defense, low-scoring game. At halftime, Nick, I'm sorry, I had to call D. Wade. I called him. I said, bro, how is it that the
name
Miami
dropper.
Heat I'm like, how is it
Look
that
at
the
that.
Miami Heat is sticking
Goes on
with the
with Danny
Lakers?
Ainge.
And he talked about strategy. He said, look, when you play against really good players, you can do things to get them out of rhythm. And he was obviously referring to AD and LeBron James. And he talked about how they're playing man, they're playing zone, they're playing match zone. And to me, that obviously listening to D Wade, that was the tale of the first half. But then LeBron James, as we always know, he figures it out. We don't talk about it a lot, but his basketball IQ is out of this world, and we don't talk about it because he's great at almost everything. Outside of closing, with Kyrie Irving talked about last week, but we'll leave that in last week's discussion. But last night was really interesting to me, Nick, and the reason why I asked you about nervousness is because.
Oh, hang on. We are being interrupted.
What, Wilds?
Hold on,
because you're talking
what's
about
up, Wilds?
the Dwayne Wade thing is too weird to let it move on. It's too. I know you want to analyze the game, but you name dropped. You called Dwayne Wade, who's maybe the Heat's greatest player, during a pivotal game in the Heat's franchise, and you, Brandon Marsh, like, I'm gonna call Dwayne Wade up. The audacity.
Yeah,
this was a real call or a text? It's a real call?
No, this was a call. This was a call.
A real call
is
even further insane, and the fact that he picked it up.
Yeah,
that's the story of the
he's
game.
not doing anything else. He's just watching the game. You know, he got his feet kicked up, probably having a Budweiser. I think he sponsors Budweiser. He's probably sitting there watching the game.
Right.
Of course, I'm gonna call D Wade. I want to understand because here's the deal. As analysts at times, even me as a football guy and watching football games, and we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of times we see something, but we don't know what it really is. Like when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, there's so many breakdowns that we don't know from the outside. And obviously, D Wade being close to the organization, he knows exactly what's going on. He's probably talking to Spo. He's definitely talking to Jimmy Butler. So I wanted the inside scoop. Isn't this what we do on TV?
Why is he talking to Brandon
Well, this is what some of us do on TV.
That's
like, isn't this what we do? Like, we don't all do that.
You guys got insiders. My insider happened to be D Wade.
No, what you did is you probably cost the Heat the game. Dwayne Wade probably needs to talk to Spo and Jimmy Butler. He's like, hold on, I've got former Jet and the Chicago Bears great Brandon Marshall on the line that needs to prep for the show. And Spo's like, all right, I guess we'll hold on. We wanted to hear your insights, but I know you got to talk to Brandon. Like, okay,
so
bye.
wait, quick, what was your number one? What was the big takeaway when you hung up the phone? You were like, oh, now I get it. What was the big takeaway from talking to D Wade?
Well, I was ready to come in here and talk about the Miami Heat winning, but, you know, obviously LeBron James and his high basketball IQ figured out exactly what they were doing. And then, obviously, playoff Rondo kicked in. He didn't score any points. He scored at one basket, but he had seven key rebounds. I mean, at the biggest moments in the game, Rondo was tipping the ball out, rebounding, and that was big. And LeBron James, you know, he didn't play great to me, but he hit some big shots. I mean, he was hot when he needed to be hot. So, to me, that was the difference. It was the tale of two halves.
All right, again, Lakers topped Miami last night. They're now one win shy of the NBA title. Phones everywhere lighting up because Brandon Marshall's on a rampage to make calls. Take a turn, Big Trouble and Big D. Big D, wait till you hear who is coming down hard on that Dallas defense. First things first, name dropper.
Stop it,
all right,
man.
let's talk some Dallas Cowboys now.
You nailed it, Jenna. You nailed it.
This is how Nick does it. Their Super Bowl hopes seemingly dashed, not just because they're 1-3, but because of why they are 1-3. That defense, the worst scoring defense in the league, a defense that's allowing more than 36 points a game. Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman came down hard on the defense. Listen to what he had to say.
To me, I'd be embarrassed as a player to put that kind of performance on film that's going to be seen by your peers for the rest of the season. It was just not very good, and I know Mike Nolan is in the firing line right now. But over the years, you could always point to the way that the Cowboys played defensively. I mean, they played with great effort. They just flew around 11 guys and didn't always play great, but it was always there on film as far as the effort level. And I mean, I didn't see one guy on defense that I'd say had a good game. And the last touchdown that Odell Beckham scored when they'd cut it to 3 points, you know, they had all the momentum. If they make a stop there defensively, they probably win the game.
Whew. All right, Brandon, some harsh words there from Troy Aikman about that Dallas D. What did you make of what he had to say?
You know, the first thing that I thought about was what we've been talking about for a week now, just overcomplicating what they're doing on defense. That's what Coach Nolan has done. He's just overcomplicated everything. He needs to simplify it. It takes me back to 2010 and 2011. I had Coach Nolan as my defensive coordinator my last year in Denver and my first year in Miami, and I just remember seeing those guys after every single period huddle up and go through the script and take out pieces of paper and draw things up. And I'm like, guys, if you don't know this now, then there's a problem. We always had breakdowns in the secondary because he has so much that he can do. When you think about Coach Nolan and when he was good and really good at calling plays, you got to think about the defensive players he had. Ray Lewis, he had veterans, Ed Reed. He had guys that understood, you know, football. He had guys that had high football IQ. When you don't have that and you're so banged up in the secondary, you got to simplify it. Right now, they need to go get a safety. I don't know if that's Tony Jefferson, Eric Reed, hell, even Eric Berry. And we talked about Earl. I don't know what they have against Earl Thomas, but he's sitting out there as well. It's too early to make an adjustment, but if they're going to make an adjustment, then they should have confidence in the guy they have behind Coach Nolan and George Edwards, who sat behind Coach Zimmer for 5 years in Minnesota. He's more than capable, but it's still a little too soon. Okay. Just simplify it. And I want to show you guys 2 plays to show you what I'm talking about. As a player, soon as the play starts, not even before the play starts, I should be able to understand exactly what they're in. Right now, I can't tell you what coverage this is. I don't know if this is 2, if it's quarters. It looks like it's quarters to me. And the toughest thing that you can do against the safety is run a post. So number 25 right there, Xavier Rhodes, when you look at this post play, that's on him. But everybody's looking at Thompson. Oh, this is on him. Well, no. In quarters coverage, everybody has a quarter of the field. So when you have that number 2 tight end on the right side of the formation, when he falls off, you got to go deep, or the corner's supposed to go deep and take the post. Because we know that against quarters, the thing that can hurt you the most is a post play. So backside help is critical. But everybody's looking at Thompson like he's the problem. He's not the problem. It's the guys on the other side understanding the responsibility when their guy doesn't go past 10 yards. Let's go to the next play. Let's go to the Atlanta game, Hurst. I can't tell you what this coverage is, Jenna. I don't know if it's zone, if it's man. One of the things you know is when guys drop back, then you know it's zone. But you got some guys chasing. You got, you know, number 24. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name. I call him CA. But CA, he's running across the field, what I believe is Julio, and you have Hurst coming in the backside. Well, who has this third of the field? Awuzie. There we go. I don't know what they're doing. They need to simplify what they're doing on defense so everyone has a chance to be successful, because you have Dak Prescott, who's throwing for 450 yards on the other side. So give it to Dak and let him win it for you.
So, Brandon, that was great. And I would imagine the reason a team would lean into a complicated defensive scheme as opposed to a very vanilla basic defense is because the idea is it will, while it might allow a few more big plays via breakdowns, it will generate more big plays in your direction, be it tackles for loss, sacks, or most importantly, forcing turnovers. And right now, this defense is the worst of both worlds. It's allowing more big plays than any team in the league while generating none of them on the other end. They've forced 2 turnovers all year. It's the second worst in the entire NFL, while allowing 35 points per game, the second worst in the entire NFL. It's a disaster. And so there is no saving grace here. And I'm just going to show you a very simple graphic to how bad the pass defense has been. They are turning every quarterback they face into Patrick Mahomes. If you look at it, the passer rating allowed for the Cowboys, the touchdown interception ratio, the yards per game, on the left is quarterbacks facing the Cowboys. On the right is Mahomes. It's the same thing. Guess what? If you play Patrick Mahomes every week, you're going to lose most weeks. You can't let this be your pass defense. Wiles, you can't have every week. It's like, well, damn, we got Mahomes on the schedule again. You're going to be in trouble. But they don't have Mahomes on the schedule. They've had Russell Wilson, who's amazing, Matt Ryan, who's good-ish, Jared Goff, who's mediocre, and Baker, who hasn't played well really consistently since rookie season. And they all look like the GOAT. So, I mean, it's a disaster for the Cowboys. Tell me, Wilds.
You know who's coming up? Our buddy Danny Dimes. Brandon, what happens if Danny Dimes turns into Patrick Mahomes? He's got the 22nd most yards per game. He's been sacked 14 times, and he's thrown as many touchdowns as Jarvis Landry. If Danny Dimes starts looking like Patrick Mahomes out there, and you mentioned adjustments because you're a nice guy, do you think this costs Mike Nolan his job?
I mean, it can. I mean, you got to think about it. This is a disaster. They're playing historically bad. Like this is unbelievable. This is unforgivable when you have a quarterback on the other side throwing it for 450 yards a game and can easily win 8 games himself. So what do you do on the other side of the ball? Just simplify. Get your guys in position. Now, I do want to say this when we look at those plays that I highlighted, and I just pulled out 2, and I wish that we had the all 22 to show you the entire field so we can go in depth into where the breakdowns are. But this is happening almost every other play, not only in the passing game, but also in the running game. Guys not maintaining the edge, guys not hitting their gap, guys not maintaining their gap. You can see it jumping out at you on film. So when you think about that, if I'm Coach Nolan, I'm going to my guys and saying, guys, this is just simple quarters coverage. So the first play against Russell Wilson was a breakdown. It looked like they had a great scheme up front where they didn't really want to get to Russell. They wanted to contain Russell. So they did a great job of keeping Russell in the pocket. Now you have DK Metcalf, who looks like that wasn't even his route. He just happened to go to the post. So, which means the backside corner and the backside safety should have more than enough time to adjust and get to the post. That's their play. That should have been a pick. That should have been an incomplete. That should have been a sack. That should have been a ball thrown out of bounds. So Coach Nolan, yes, he needs to simplify, but I also think it's fair to say that these guys need to do their damn job. That's it. Do your job. It's quarters coverage. We put this in high school football.
That job should get easier on Sunday when they face the Joe Judge-led New York Giants, Daniel Jones. Hey, guys, I think we may have found our next Tom Brady. Brett Favre with a name you might not have expected. Next, first things first.
I'm guessing it's Josh Allen, based on the video.
His time is now, and I think it's going to be for quite a while. And I think Josh Allen will be the new Tom Brady. At some point he will be running the division.
Wow. You heard what Brett Favre had to say about fellow gunslinger Josh Allen. A little drawing a blank now. Brandon, Brett Favre saying Josh Allen will be the new Tom Brady is blank.
Jenna, it's late. He's absolutely late. Brett Favre is the only one outside of Nick Wright that's not putting this guy on the pedestal and saying that he is great. Absolutely. No Tom Brady in the division. He's going to run a division, and he may even run the AFC as a whole come next year. Right, Nick?
Guys,
what?
See,
What's wrong with the
how
long
I get
face?
painted. This is how I get painted a hater. It's not my fault, America. It's because folks, instead of just being okay with, hey, this guy's better than we thought when he was the 6th best quarterback in the Mountain West coming out of Wyoming, it's now he's the next Tom Brady. So this is a bridge too far. Like, stop. Can we stop? Like, Josh Allen is having a really good season, and I will give him full credit for that. Josh Allen is playing better this year than I ever thought he would at any point in his career. And so I will admit, in that regard, I was wrong. But this anointing him, talking about, is he going to be MVP? He's going to run the AFC East like Brady. I'm not even convinced the Bills are going to win the AFC East this year, much less win it for 17 of 18 years the way Brady did. So just stop. It's a bridge too far, Wilds. It's a bridge way too far.
But the GOAT said it.
The GOAT
Tom Brady
said
it?
Favre's not even the best quarterback in the Packers history. He's not even the Packers GOAT.
Okay. I use it loosely. I use it loosely.
Bronze medalist quarterback. Yeah.
I use the word loosely. I take it back. Retract.
Okay,
Retract.
All right, go ahead. Okay, audience, I instruct you to strike what Brandon Marshall just said from the record. You will continue on with the show in this take right here. Okay. We won the division 17 of the last 19 years. I think Nick said 18, but maybe you think we tied one. I don't know how we're going to do that. That would put us at 2039. We're drinking Soylent, and we've got robots in our flying cars. That's not happening. And so that I said lucky and good was my answer. So there's a little bit, that's because Belichick and Brady are very good. But there's also an element of luck that we went 19 years. And Nick, who was our big quarterback rivalry in the division? Go ahead, name all the great quarterbacks that we had to face.
There wasn't Chad Pennington for a year. I mean, Fitzpatrick with Brandon. Like, there are no good quarterbacks in the AFC East forever. Right.
That's it.
Right.
So
exactly right.
And good.
Which is why, Jenna, that's why Josh Allen, part of the reason why this looks so good is we haven't seen an even above average quarterback in the AFC East for 20 years.
Yeah. And add that to Tom Brady leaving.
It's 17 of 19. Yep.
Add that to Brady leaving, and Josh Allen looks like the guy that left. All right, let's move on to Tampa Bay. Speaking of, the original Tom Brady, not the Josh Allen Tom Brady, practiced yesterday without his top 4 wide receivers. This just 2 days before the Bucs travel to Chicago, take on Nick Foles, the Bears, Thursday Night Football on Fox. Shameless plug. Brandon, the Bucs practicing without their top 4 wideouts is blank.
It's smart. Wide receivers, we're like Indy cars. You know, we're high performing. We get revved up. We're these tough, strong, fast machines. But you also got to be gentle with us. When you ask us to play on Thursday Night Football, it's more about the mental than it is the physical. So sitting these guys on the sideline is smart because I need these guys ready to go come Thursday night. This is going to be a big game. You see what's happening around the league. A lot of soft tissue issues. No, not in Tampa. They're not having it.
Issue.
So I think this Thursday is about to be the start of a swoon for the darling Tampa Bay Bucs. Now I know I listened on this show on Monday, 5 touchdowns for Tom Brady. No one was surprised by it. It's expected. It's what he's going to be. I'm very interested to see what he looks like this Thursday against Chicago, then next week against Green Bay, then the following week when they go all the way to Vegas cross country. So I think the 3-1 Bucs very, very, very realistically could be 4-3, 3-4 when we revisit this in a few weeks. We'll obviously talk about them between now and then.
Quick question.
So I think
quick question. If he goes 3-0, quick question. If he goes 3-0, are you willing to back off of Tom Brady, the GOAT?
Yes.
No shot.
Yes.
I'll answer that for him.
No. You said no. The answer is yes. If they go 3-0 at Chicago against Green Bay and at Oakland, then I'll reevaluate 100%. Luckily for me, Wilds.
No, ain't no reevaluate. There's no evaluation. You're done. No, you're done. Leave him alone.
Go ahead, Wilds.
Wilds, I'm not going to have to worry about it.
Jenna, you know what I want to see? After a big loss from the Patriots, or the junior varsity Patriots, I want to see Gronk back. O.J. Howard's out now. Can I get some Gronk time? He's got 9 receptions for 88 yards in 4 games. I was promised this Gronk renaissance, and I haven't gotten it. So I would like to see a lot of Gronk on Thursday. Please, for all Patriots fans out there.
Gronk and renaissance. It's like an oxymoron. All right, let's talk some Kansas City Chiefs. They're the first team ever to start 4-0 in 4 straight seasons. Nick begged us to congratulate them. We refused to do it. Brandon.
I just wanted it acknowledged.
I think you wanted like a mini trophy. Brandon, the chances the Chiefs go undefeated is blank.
Okay, let me do this with a straight face because I want Nick to take me serious here, okay? It's Josh Allen dependent. They face off against the Buffalo Bills Thursday night. Okay, week 6. Yeah. I'm telling you, this is the game where they go down. So it's Josh Allen dependent.
It's a good answer.
So, Brandon, I do take you seriously because the Bills roster, top to bottom, is outstanding. It's a great defense. It's a short week. It's on the road. My answer is a little different than yours. Mine is 21.5%. And I came to that number by I gave my own kind of rough calculations of their percentage to win each of their remaining 12 games, multiplied it all together, and I got 21.5%. But to your point, Brandon, the game I gave them the lowest chance to win is Week 6 against Buffalo. So they're 95% this week. They're only at 70% Week 6 in Buffalo. I gave them 100%, by the way, when they were at home against the Broncos. So I could show you the math. It's right here. It's 0.95 times 0.7 times 0.99. Goes on for 12. You come up with 21.47%. I rounded up 21.5%, Wilds. A little better than a 1-in-5 shot to go undefeated. That's the answer.
Oh, my goodness, Jenna.
I am wildly interested in your calculation there. I would expect it to be much lower once you start adding them. And if you don't mind, text me a picture of your calculations, and I will redo them.
0.95 times 0.7 times 0.99 times
text me. No,
times
audience doesn't want to hear it. Okay, no, don't. Okay, the audience is not interested in math. At 8 times. Why do you love first things first? Oh, I love math. I love to break out my calculator and watch the show.
All right, I'm going to text it to you. Here you go.
Just text it to me because the audience doesn't care. I
got you. No problem.
I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for the Chiefs here. Because when you play, I didn't like that when the Patriots went 18-0. I think that we should have lost that game because I actually thought it hurt our Super Bowl chances when we lost to the Giants. I will be rooting for you. You can get the number 1 seed. Don't get the bye.
Oh, you're such a hater.
I guess you would.
You're rooting for us, so we
would have to win.
What a hater.
No, well then you can play the varsity Patriots.
Jenna, just move on.
You can come play the varsity Patriots.
Let us finish up in Green Bay, where Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are off to a red-hot start. 13 touchdowns, no picks, probably because of that draft, Nick. I'm joking. Rodgers is self-motivated. Aaron joined the Pat McAfee show yesterday and had this to say.
You know, I sometimes laugh when people talk about, you know, down years for me, because a lot of times down years for me are career years for most quarterbacks.
That was awesome.
That's so great. All right, Brandon. Aaron Rodgers saying, let me do it. Down years for me, or career years for most quarterbacks, is blank.
Awesome. Well, Jenna, let me continue on this math theme since Nick wants to play with numbers. He's 100% correct. As a wide receiver, so you got it. I love it. Let's break down numbers. As a wide receiver, I never understood why some guys, and even commentators say, oh, this guy, he went for 1,000 yards last year. Or a receiver could stand up and say, I want 1,000 yards this year. And I'm like, well, 16 games, and you divide that like 62 and a half yards a game to get 1,000. You should get that in a half. So I don't respect wide receivers and commentators that think, you know, 1,000 yards is great. I 100% back Aaron Rodgers on this. He is great, and he is the GOAT of the Green Bay Packers.
There you go. Yeah, I love this, and I love it because I appreciate honest arrogance. Media has been conditioned to applaud fake humility as opposed to honest arrogance. Guess what? Aaron Rodgers is bleeping amazing. And you know who knows it more than anybody? Aaron bleeping Rodgers. And so I don't like when guys who know they're great are like, well, you know, I'm just shocked I'm even here. It's all because of the teammates. No, it's because you're great. And so he's being honest about that. It might be arrogant, but I'd rather that than false humility. So, Wilds, I say it's honest arrogance, and I love it.
I agree. I'm going to introduce a new hashtag. Russell Wilson's got a hashtag, and it's going to borrow from LeBron's. Don't take Aaron Rodgers for granted. Is that too long of a hashtag? Maybe. But the guy's just consistently awesome, and he delivers great sound bites, too. So don't take Aaron Rodgers for granted. Hashtag.
All right, you guys, you know who else is down years or career years for other players? Who, Nick?
He doesn't have down years, Jenna. He doesn't have down years.
Back to last night's NBA Finals, Game 4. Maybe when he's injured. When he's injured, I'll call that a down year. First things first. After this.
Last year was a down year.
Welcome back. Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Lakers, Heat, and a chance for Miami to tie this series up. They'd have to fend off LeBron and AD, and last night that wasn't going to happen. The King finished a nice line for him, 28, 12, and 8. Anthony Davis with a clutch 3 with less than a minute to go to seal it for the Lakers. Even though Miami had Bam Adebayo back, the Lakers seemed to have an answer for everything Miami was throwing at them. Lakers win. They're now 1 win away from their 17th title in franchise history. Here is LeBron James after the game.
When I woke up from my nap this morning after our team meeting, I just felt that. I felt that vibe. I felt that pressure. I felt like for me personally, this was one of the biggest games of my career. And just wanted to relay that message to my teammates, what type of zone I was in, what type of moment it was, because I just know how great of a team that we're playing against. And after the Game 3 win, that confidence that they had, that they still have, even after tonight's loss, they're just a gritty, so damn well-coached team. But I feel like if we want to be a championship ball club, if we really want to be a championship team, then we gotta have that same grit and that same attitude. So it's just my mindset.
NBA champ Antoine Walker joins us now. Twan, good morning. You watched the game last night. What was the key to the Lakers win?
Well, the Lakers played good in the fourth quarter. I didn't think they played great. But it goes to me, and I think Eric Spoelstra is probably the top 3 coach in the NBA right now. Great, brilliant mind. But last night, to continue to play Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson together in the fourth quarter, to me, was the hugest mistake they could have ever made. You cannot play those 2 guys together. I was actually really stubborn. It was stubborn for Eric Spoelstra to try to think that you can outscore the Lakers. You got to defend the Lakers. You got to get stops. Andre Iguodala should have never played 20 minutes. He should have played way more than 20 minutes. And he should have went with more of a defensive unit yet in that fourth quarter. It was a defensive game last night. And he chose not to go with his veteran guys and defend late, and it hurt them. LeBron took advantage of the pick and roll, putting those young rookies in the pick and roll. Clutch offensive rebounds. Rondo got just moving without the basketball. So even though the Lakers did what they had to do to win the game, I think it was more about the Heat mistakes that they made defensively and not making adjustments. See, sometimes you get in these situations and these coaches get stubborn when you come to the finals. But it's about using your whole bench, using your role players. When we talk about this series, when it's all said and done, we will talk about the role players and how good they play. They had 52 points of the 102 points last night. You know, AD and LeBron only had 50 points. So if you're the Heat, you did a terrific job of guarding these 2 superstars, but you allowed the others to continue to get off. That's, for Eric Spoelstra, was too good of a coach. Yes, go ahead.
So I got to cut you off, man, because I saw it the opposite way. I know you're the basketball expert, but, man, I thought they played great defense. The first half, definitely highlighting that. In the first half, it was a defensive bet, low-scoring game, low-scoring half, great defense. They threw everything at them, and I don't want to act like, I sat here and watched the game myself. I actually called my buddy D. Wade. I'm like, how are they staying up? How are they keeping pace with the Lakers? And he talked about strategy. He talked about how they're going from man to zone to match zone. So I saw it the other way because I was ready to come in here today and talk about how the Lakers actually lost the game, but LeBron actually figured it out in the second half, and he made some key baskets down the stretch. I don't think he played great. I think he played big in big moments.
Well, D. Wade was not watching the game, so probably you shouldn't have called D. Wade because they stopped playing zone about 2 games ago. Let's start with that. They stopped playing zone.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. They started with 2-3. No, it's not true.
No. Brandon, they stopped playing zone. I would guarantee you they stopped playing zone and started playing more man-to-man. That was the case. You have to make adjustments. Now, one thing you did say was correct. LeBron James, and how smart he is, he was able to figure it out the second half, how we could be effective. LeBron loosened the defense up. He made a couple threes. But what's even more important, LeBron went 7 for 7 from the free throw line in the fourth quarter.
Oh.
He had started to attack the basket, use his body.
Hold on, okay, that's fine. That's fine. So let's do this because you guys just said I was wrong. Go to the first quarter, midway through the first quarter, and you'll see 2-3 zone. Go through the first quarter, halfway through it, 2-3 zone. You can play little league basketball. No, that's a 2-3 zone.
Brandon,
give me a possession.
If you got this, if you got this much room, you got very little room. You got inches. That you are outmatched. You have inches. You have no room for a lot of mistakes. They made mistakes defensively, and he relied on 2 rookies to defend late in the game. Go with your veteran guys. This is the reason you brought in Andre Iguodala, to be able to defend late. The Lakers took advantage of that, and you got to give the Lakers credit. Give LeBron credit. But D-Wade must not be watching, because they stopped playing zone at the game, too. They knew they couldn't. LeBron and AD shredded that zone.
So a couple things. The story of this game is not how many possessions they did or didn't play a matchup zone. And D-Wade's probably drinking, some $1,200 wine and is, maybe not as locked in as he otherwise would be. So I give him a pass on that. The story of this game is exactly what Antoine listed, with one omission. The story is LeBron hunting down Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, forcing them into pick and rolls, and then Jay Crowder's just there to whack him over the head and send him to the free throw line. And then LeBron, the only fair criticism. All the other criticisms of LeBron, his game over the last decade, have been totally ridiculous. There's one fair one. Not a great free throw shooter. And in Game 4 of the NBA Finals in the fourth quarter, he goes 7 of 7 at the free throw line, all of them critical. So that was the story on the offensive end for the Lakers. The only thing Antoine left out was the story defensively was Anthony Davis, who had his second straight subpar offensive game, taking on the challenge, guarding Jimmy Butler, and making Jimmy Butler, particularly after the first quarter, work. Jimmy Butler was 5 of 5 in the first quarter, and in the second, the rest of the game, was around 30% from the field, held him in check until, 20 or 22 points for the game. So a great job by Anthony Davis there. But Wilds, the other story is this. You can't beat the Lakers if you're down after 3 quarters. It's like the old school Yankees if you're down after 8 innings, except it's basketball and it's a quarter of the game. Show the stats. This is unreal. 56-0 when leading through 3 quarters. And it's a telling top 4 all time, because you've got this year's Lakers, the 72-win Bulls, a Celtics team with 3 superstar Hall of Famers in Russell, Hondo, and Jones. And then, look who's 4th on that list. The 2018 Cavs with an injured Kevin Love and J.R. Smith. What's the common denominator? In his last 2 healthy seasons, Wilds, LeBron's 106-1 when leading after 3 quarters. And it's not just because he scores in the 4th, it's because of last night. He orchestrates everything. He makes the right play. He understands how to control the game. So even when the Heat were getting it within 2, within 3, they never could get over the hump, like no team all year long has been able to get over the hump against these Lakers when they head into the fourth quarter trailing. Wilds.
So Antoine, if we build on that stat, right? Does Spoelstra know that? Does Spoelstra know that he's like, all right, we really are playing for 36 minutes because if we can't come back, or when he notices that, like, okay, we're down after 3 quarters, I need to go with my offensive squad here. I need to outscore them. I'm going to keep Kelly Olynyk on the bench, and I'm going to hope that Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, who weren't like on fire, but they were moderately hot. Like Tyler Hero went over 20, had a garbage one at the end of the game, but still, those guys were like hoping to hit shots in the fourth quarter. Do you still think that Spoelstra was wrong to try to outscore the Lakers?
Every game is different. You had the 5-point game to start the fourth quarter. You had numerous opportunities to get in this game to take lead. It's a make-or-miss lead. But the flip side to it is that they were getting enough stops to put themselves in position to win this game. But the problem is you got to figure out where the mismatch is at. LeBron James is starting to be effective. He starts to be aggressive, and he's taking advantage of your rookies. That's anybody that's watching basketball and know the game know that, well, you know what? I need to make a change right here. We need to get one of these guys out. Andre Iguodala has made a ton of big shots in his career. He's not that bad offensively where he can't make an open shot. And he's made big shots. This is a guy that was the MVP of the finals. You have to make adjustments. The Lakers, one thing that Frank Vogel has done, which has been very surprising, I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's LeBron, whether it's Jason Kidd, but I'm going to give Frank Vogel the credit because he's the head coach. He makes the adjustment. You didn't see Dwight Howard yesterday. He knows this series is past Dwight Howard. He gave him a try the first couple games. They've mastered that now. He knows now he has to play Morris now. He's playing that. Danny Green, you didn't see Danny Green late because he's not making shots.
Right.
So you got to make those type of adjustments in the course of a game. Every game is different.
Yep.
Some games you may need a guy to score the basketball. Some games you may not. But I'm looking and I'm on the outside. I know for a fact we need stops. We need to try to contain LeBron James, and we need to get rebounds. The second shot
contained
killed
the
them as
hottest
well.
player in the bubble to 22 points. That makes no sense to me. 22 points.
Antoine, I want to
AD,
watch the next game with you. I want your perspective. We'll do it virtually. A little FaceTime me and you, expensive wine. It'll be great. With the win, the Lakers now up.
Add me too.
3-1. Oh, it'll be fun. I won't get a word in edgewise, I'll tell you that much. Back to football now, and the unlikeliest of critics on this Dallas Cowboys team. One of the greats weighing in. Wait till you hear who next. First things first. Viewing party. Back here talking Dallas Cowboys now. On offense, this team's good enough to be a Super Bowl contender. Unfortunately for them, defense. It is dreadful, for lack of a better term, allowing more than 36 points a game, that defense. Dak Prescott forced to play catch-up every time he's on the field. This prompting Dallas great Troy Aikman to come down hard on the Dallas defense. Listen to this.
To me, I'd be embarrassed as a player to put that kind of performance on film that's going to be seen by your peers for the rest of the season. It was just not very good, and I know Mike Nolan is in the firing line right now. But over the years, you could always point to the way that the Cowboys played defensively. I mean, they played with great effort. They just flew around 11 guys and didn't always play great, but it was always there on film as far as the effort level. And I mean, I didn't see one guy on defense that I'd say had a good game. And the last touchdown that Odell Beckham scored when they'd cut it to 3 points, they had all the momentum. If they make a stop there defensively, they probably win the game.
It's 27.
All right, with that, we are now joined by Brian Westbrook. Brian, you played in that NFC East division for years. You know this Cowboys team. What did you make of what Troy Aikman had to say?
Well, Jenna, Troy is absolutely right. And I went back and watched every single snap of the Cowboys defense this season. And I watch these things through a running back lens. Do I want to play against a defense like this? And truthfully, this is the exact type of defense that I'm thinking of. Okay, let me get my stats up. Let me get my yards up. Let me get my touchdowns up. And there's a couple of different reasons why. Number one, they're losing in the trenches at the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to win. And Andy Reid always told us, if you want to win in the NFL, you have to win on both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage. And the Cowboys' defensive line is getting blown back consistently 3-4 yards past the line of scrimmage on almost every single play. And just think about it. From a running back's perspective, if the defensive line is getting blown back 3-4 yards, now as a running back, I'm not getting contacted until 4 or 5 yards down the field. So I'm getting hit by safeties and linebackers 4 or 5 yards down the field. If I don't break any tackles, I have a successful run if I'm getting tackled at 4 yards after the line of scrimmage. So there's just no way to be successful getting blown up at the line of scrimmage if you're the Dallas Cowboys. The second part is they're a bad tackling football team. I'm talking about heads down, eyes closed, arm tackling. No one's running through guys trying to make physical, aggressive tackles. They're tackling very bad. And the last thing, and to me, this is the most damning part. This is the thing that you just can't excuse. And Troy mentioned it. There's no energy, there's no hustle, there's no effort on a lot of these big plays that they've given up. I'm seeing guys walking. I'm seeing guys jogging. You watch this Odell play. There's 3 or 4 guys just jogging, not trying to make the play. If you want to be a good defense, you need hats to the ball.
Yeah,
you need 11 guys to try to attack the football. And unfortunately, the Dallas Cowboys don't have this. They have that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably seeing a lack of effort because they're mentally exhausted. I like Coach Nolan. You know, I used to have great conversations with Coach Nolan on the sideline. I had him as my defensive coordinator in Denver in 2010 when Coach McDaniels was the head coach. The following year, went to Miami. Coach Tony Sperano was the head coach. Brought in Coach Nolan to be that DC. And I just remember those guys in between drills, in between periods, going over what they went over in the classroom. And I just remember thinking, like, if you guys don't have it now, you're not going to have it on Sunday. So for me, Coach Nolan is a very smart coach. But if you don't have smart players to be able to run your defense and your scheme, then you can't run it. There's no offseason, no preseason. We talk about that every single week. You can't come in and throw everything at them. And that's what we're saying, especially when you have a banged-up secondary. They need help. They need to go sign a safety right now. I mean, you got some veteran help out there right now. You got Eric Berry, you got Tony Jefferson. And yes, I said Eric Berry. Like, that's what you need, somebody who's respected, someone who can galvanize that secondary and say, listen, we're playing simple quarters. We're playing quarter, half. We're playing cover 1, cover 3. Do your job. You have this third. You have this quarter. Do your job. You can look at some of these plays in the back end. We don't have to run these clips right now, but it comes down to stabilizing that secondary. Coach Nolan simplifying that playbook. I reached out to some of my old Denver Bronco teammates on the defensive side. I'm like, hey, tell me a little bit about your time with Coach Nolan, and was this a complicated defense to learn? They said very. He built it in a way where everybody can make plays. The nose guard can lead the team in tackles, and something was really interesting. He's like, it's hard for him to simplify. He can't simplify it. So this is going to be really telling. You have George Edwards behind him. I think it's too early to make this move, but he's definitely on the hot seat. When you have that guy behind you that spent 5 years with Coach Zimmer, who's a defensive genius, you got to wonder if they're going to make that move in the next coming weeks.
And Brandon, you're talking about their breakdowns on the back end. I'm going to talk about the simplest thing for a defensive player to do: rush the passer. Like, we got a blind reveal for you. I'll give you a hint. It's a Cowboy and a former Cowboy, and we can show the two numbers this year. One of them is the highest paid Cowboys player on defense. The other is a guy who used to play for them, who's now on a minimum salary. Show who those two people are. It's DeMarcus Lawrence and former first-round pick Taco Charlton. And I know DeMarcus Lawrence is upset that people are saying you're just looking at the counting stats. And I understand for pass rushers, pressures and hurries should matter, not as much as sacks, but close to it. But we're approaching 450 snaps dating back to last year since DeMarcus Lawrence has recorded a sack. So if your secondary doesn't know what it's doing, and your pass rush outside of Alden Smith can't get to the quarterback, and Brian Westbrook is talking about, as a running back, I've got gaps and lanes all over the place, well, that begs the question, the hell do you do well? And the answer, Wilds, is nothing. They do nothing well defensively. They're not coached well. They're not playing well. They're not doing the basic stuff well. They're not doing the hard stuff well. What's that a recipe for? The worst defense in the NFL. And up to this point, Kevin, that is exactly what they've been. The worst defense in the NFL.
Yeah, so I think Mike Nolan has to prove it this Sunday against the Giants. You're going up against Danny Dimes and the most creative mind in football, Joe Judge. But the Giants are not a good offensive team. Danny Dimes has been sacked 14 times. He's 22nd in the league in yards per game. He's got as many touchdowns as Jarvis Landry. And Brian, they play the Eagles. Cowboys play the Eagles on November 1st. If you want to suit up again, then you might get a chance. But I don't think if this game goes well, I don't think you'll be playing against a Mike Nolan defense. You're going to have somebody else you have to deal with. So I think that this is the game that if the Cowboys look bad here, as Bernie Mac said, there's going to be some furniture moving. This cannot continue.
But it's not even telling if they look good against the Giants, right, Brian? Oh, go ahead, buddy.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. Even if they look good against the Giants, that doesn't really say very much. But one of the other things that I think about is how offensive teams and defensive teams helped each other. The offense for the Cowboys have to do a better job of not putting their defense in a bad situation. We're talking about Dak with 3 interceptions and Zeke with 3 fumbles. Stop turning the ball over. Stop giving up short fields. Stop putting your defense right back on the field. You want to make a team, your defense, able to get some Gatorade, get some water, sit on the bench, and get some rest, not to have to go right back on the field. Offensively, they're not helping a defense that is struggling as well.
Brandon, I got a quick question for you before we move on. If they were to make a change from the coordinator position, and someone comes in and just simplifies everything, how much disruption is that? And how much of it is, listen, we've been playing football our whole lives. It doesn't, like, if you it's always okay if you simplify things as opposed to going in the other direction. Like, my concern would be, if I'm a Cowboys fan, well, maybe it looks bad now, but they're learning it. They'll get better. Like, can there be a downside to making a change like that midway through the year?
No, I mean, it could have the opposite effect. It could energize your locker room. It can energize your defense. You know, you got to think about 2 weeks ago, Jalen Smith made a comment saying we need to simplify what we're doing on defense. So they're already talking about this in the locker room. Brian, you know this. In the locker room, we call these small pockets. And those small pockets, and I hate to use this example, but you hear it all the time, but it becomes cancerous. You know, and we try as leaders in the locker room to break up those small groups, because you have guys going in saying, hey, did you hear what coach called? I don't like that. What do you think about what coach is putting in this week in this package? And that's when the integrity of what you're trying to do on a defensive side, on the side, you have no buy-in. That's when it's disruptive. So when you come in and you make that move and you just simplify it, it could potentially energize this group.
All right, the Giants will face this defense on Sunday, see how they fare. Back to basketball now, talking finals MVP already, because last night's game gave us 2 candidates. This is First Things First. Tonight on FS1, the National League Division Series continues. Game 2 between Mookie Betts and the Dodgers and Fernando Tatis Jr. and the Padres. It all starts 8:30 Eastern on FS1 and always on the Fox Sports app. Back here with Antoine Walker. All right, Twan, LeBron opened the NBA Finals as the favorite for MVP over Anthony Davis. Now with the Lakers just 1 win away from a title, it's time to see how our friends at Fox Bet have changed the odds. So LeBron has now become an even heavier favorite. He's listed at -800. Anthony Davis still listed second with +600 odds to take home the Bill Russell Finals MVP award. Twan, what would LeBron's 4th NBA Finals MVP mean for his legacy?
I don't think it'll mean much for his legacy. I think his legacy is already set. We already know where LeBron stands in the history books, but obviously LeBron is continually adding stats and putting things, chasing all these ultimate records, but I don't think it changes his legacy at all. Right now, I still believe that he's behind AD to win this MVP award. If you really look at this series and how this series has went, LeBron James hasn't been great this series. He's had 14 turnovers in the last 2 games. Hasn't been that great offensively. He did have a good 4th quarter last night, but AD's been more consistent. Besides for getting in early foul trouble, AD's been the most consistent. And defensively, the job that AD did on Jimmy Butler as far as forcing him away from the basket, making him make tough decisions, I think kind of separated himself a little bit. So a solid performance in Game 5 would kind of put AD in that position to be the MVP of this series. But LeBron's legacy does not change at all winning MVP. It's already there. So I don't think this MVP against the Miami Heat would make it that much different than what it is already.
All right, I'm having a hard time digesting everything Antoine just said, so give me a second here. First, let me address the legacy stuff, then let me address the Anthony Davis stuff. Here's why it would be massive for his legacy. There's 5 guys in the history of the league with at least 3 of these things. This, of course, would be LeBron's 4th, but we know who those guys are. It's Jordan, it's LeBron, it's Shaq, it's Duncan, and it's Magic. What all those guys have in common is they won those alongside all-time coaches. Magic won his first with Paul Westhead, but then with Pat Riley. Duncan had Pop the whole way. Obviously, Shaq had Phil Jackson, and Jordan had Phil Jackson the whole way. LeBron, forget 3 different franchises. He'd be doing it for a franchise coached by Ty Lue, who had never won anything before LeBron came around, hadn't been a head coach. For Spoelstra, who hadn't won anything before LeBron came around. And now for Frank Vogel, who hadn't won anything until LeBron came around. So it would put him not just 3 different franchises, but doing it with that many different teammates, and more importantly, without the iconic coach, even though Spoelstra has turned out to be a great coach, would be really impressive. But this idea that right now it's close, Antoine, all the credit in the world for the job Anthony Davis did defensively on Jimmy Butler last night. I led the show talking about it. But LeBron James is averaging more points. He's also averaging more rebounds than Anthony Davis. And he's obviously averaging far more assists. And he's doing it on 54% shooting. Like, I think our mind gets tricked a little bit in what's a good game and what's not for LeBron. You're right. He's turned the ball over too much the last 2 games. But the first 2 games, he had 2 total turnovers. So I don't know the case that Anthony Davis has been more impactful when LeBron is averaging more points, rebounds, assists, and in LeBron's high turnover game, AD had 5 himself despite barely handling the ball, Antoine.
See, that's the problem right there, Nick. You're going off stats, and everything is always about numbers. I'm giving you a point-blank eye test on what I'm saying. And if you look at Anthony Davis' game 2, in that 3rd quarter was something amazing when he went, I think, 8 for 8 or 7 for 8. And putting that game out of reach in game 2, you got to look at the high points. And then you look at game 3, Anthony Davis gets in foul trouble, and they lose. LeBron had a chance to take that over, but instead LeBron turns it over 4 times in the 4th quarter. He has 8 turnovers for the game. And last night, who makes the dagger, who makes the big shot to put the game away? Anthony Davis. You got to get credit where credit's due. LeBron's always had numbers. You can even take it back to when Andre Iguodala won the MVP. His numbers were horrible. But the eye test and the big plays, Andre Iguodala was the best player in that series because he made big shots, big plays that we were not expecting, and he guarded LeBron James that series. And LeBron had monster finals. This is, you look at LeBron's finals, Nick, you know that. And LeBron's been to the finals 10 times. This is probably his worst finals. Come on, he hasn't been this dominant guy that's just dominate the Heat. I don't go with numbers. I'm talking about eye test. Jimmy Butler has guarded him good as anybody. Jimmy Butler has guarded him by himself gooder than anybody we've ever seen.
Twan, I'm with you when you're right. Twan, I'm with you when you're right, man.
This is insane.
Hey, I'm with you on this one that LeBron James' legacy is already intact. It is what it is. But, man, I think you're wrong here. AD blew the bag. He is no longer, he's not even in the running for MVP, finals MVP. You can't be finals MVP with a 15-point outing, a 22-point outing. I mean, I'm going to tell you what went through my mind. When you talk about the eye test, let me tell you what went through my mind last night.
15 points a game.
That's fine. But that's fine. But let's talk about AD.
Because they gave it to the wrong guy.
AD last night. Hold on one second, Nick.
The guy who averaged 36, 13, and 9.
Hold on one second,
Brandon.
Nick.
Sorry.
Hold on one second. Let me tell you what went through my mind last night when AD hit that big shot that you're talking about. I'm like, who is this guy? He was nowhere to be found in the 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter. He hits one big shot and he starts pounding on his chest like I'm the man. Come on, where was that tenacity? Where was that intensity? Where was that shot-making ability throughout the entire game? Come on, man. To me, that was all for the cameras. I don't believe in that. That was LeBron James' game last night. LeBron James figured it out for his team. He carried his team. Now, I will say this. As a player, and we're talking about LeBron's legacy, in 2014, I shifted my goals. For me, it was, okay, personal and then team goals. Every year I said from a personal standpoint, I want 100 catches. I'll be okay with 100 catches, 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. But every year I really wanted to lead the receiving category, the receivers in all categories. But from a team perspective, I thought about, wow, how amazing would it be to go to a Super Bowl? It's extremely hard to go to any type of championship. As you know, you're a champion. And I said, you know what? Let me add another personal goal for myself. And I said, I want to be MVP of the Super Bowl. I want that Santonio Holmes moment where I catch the game-winning touchdown. I visualize this. I said the way I want us to win it, the way I want to be MVP is I want to have that Santonio Holmes moment where he catches the ball in the back of the end zone on the right side, and then I'm MVP. Because that's when you solidify your legacy, when you do it on the biggest stage. This guy is on his way to do it 4 times, Tone.
Okay. I'm going to tread very carefully, because when we talk about LeBron James, it's a little bit if you ever like going for a hike in the woods and you stumble upon some baby bears, you're like, oh, that's nice. And you're like, uh-oh, there's a very good chance I'm going to be eviscerated here. And that's what Nick is. Nick is the mama bear looking like, are you teeth claws out?
Let me see.
I'm treading carefully
what you
here.
got.
I'm going to ask for a full screen of the stats on Lakers wins. And here we go. I don't care about the loss. In fact,
be careful.
I think since Anthony Davis had a bad game and they lost, it actually bolsters his MVP case. He's got more points, and yes, LeBron has more rebounds, sure. He's got a higher field goal percentage, shooting better from 3, and obviously he's been more impactful on defense. And just in total, this is not even in wins. I know you're like, that more point overall. He's got a total of 7 more rebounds. LeBron has 7 more rebounds in total all the games.
Wild. So, Wild.
Anthony
Did they
Davis
mess
has
up
played
your
better
graphic?
in the wins.
Wild. Did they mess up your graphic? Can they put that back up? You couldn't have intentionally left off assists. I know you wouldn't do that. That'd be wildly intellectually dishonest. So bad job by our producers to leave off assists when we're talking about the team's point guard winning finals MVP. You lunatics. You absolute twat. I adore you. One guy is giving you 28, 11, and 9. The other guy is giving you 26, 9, and 3. One guy is controlling the entirety of the game. And this idea that, you know what, Anthony Davis's bad game doesn't count. What? LeBron's bad game, he gave you 25, 10, and 8. Anthony Davis's bad game, he gave you 15, 5, and 3. And this idea, he was in foul trouble. He played 30-plus minutes. It's not like he got 5 fouls in the first half and had to sit. It's crazy. It's insane. There's a reason it's minus 800. And by the way, America, if you agree with Antoine or Wild, you can make a lot of money bet on Anthony Davis. It's 6-1. You can make a lot of money. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm obviously not.
All right, this will continue through the commercial. Antoine, thank you as always. Switch gears, head up to Green Bay. The rare peek into Aaron Rodgers' moxie and unwavering confidence. Next, first things first. All right, keep going. Talking Packers
exactly right. Now you
Aaron
get it,
Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has been picture perfect during this season's first 4 weeks. I mean, 13 touchdowns, no picks, and a 4-0 start heading into the bye week. Rodgers joined the Pat McAfee show yesterday. I love this. Take a listen to this.
You know, I sometimes laugh when people talk about, you know, down years for me, because a lot of times down years for me are career years for most quarterbacks.
That was awesome.
I see you, Aaron Rodgers. Brian Westbrook rejoins us again. All right, Brian, there is some truth to it. What'd you make of what Aaron Rodgers had to say?
Well, I love what Aaron Rodgers said. I also love the way that Pat McAfee responded. I mean, if you would say something like that and those people respond like that, like Pat McAfee did, I think that's amazing. But Aaron Rodgers is absolutely right. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, probably the second best quarterback. And the expectation for him is much higher than everyone else. So he's absolutely right. His average years are career years for most people, and that's because you're so good. And Nick, you mentioned something yesterday. I think this kind of says the same thing for Aaron Rodgers. When the Kansas City Chiefs win by 16, everybody's like, they should have won by 20. They should have won by 25. That's because our expectation is so much higher for guys like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs. The expectation is different for the best of the best. Here's an expectation I'm looking at for Aaron Rodgers. get to the Super Bowl, and win another one. You're one of the best ever. Let's get a couple of Super Bowls on your resume. Once you do that, then you're in that conversation of you talking about the GOAT of the game. And right now, he just isn't in that conversation because of the Super Bowls.
Yeah, B, I absolutely love it. I love Pat's reaction to him saying that. But the best part was how calm and collected Aaron was when they were cheering and laughing like that. He was just like, yeah, this is what I said. This is what I do. But if you go back to last year, you can say that was the year, one of the years he's talking about. He only had 4,000 yards throwing passing yards through the air on the nose, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, led his team to a 13-3 record, and we weren't talking about them. We weren't talking about him. We were talking about Lamar Jackson, Mahomes. We were even talking about Kirk Cousins the second half of the year. We were even talking about Ryan Tannehill, Drew Brees. And there was no real big discussions about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I absolutely love this. I love his confidence. And we're seeing who he is and why he's so great. Like that personality right there is why guys love playing with him.
Yeah. So this is the penalty you pay for being one of the greatest ever. It reminds me of a conversation we had all the way back 9 minutes ago when folks were like, hey, LeBron, 28, 11, and 9 on 54% in the finals. Step it up, buddy, because we've seen him average a 35-point triple-double in the finals. So it's like, is he really playing that well? Well, not compared to his best, but compared to every other player in the history of the league, pretty damn good. Same with Rodgers. Rodgers had a 4-year run when he played the position, you could argue, at the highest level it's ever been played. In those 4 years, he had 139 touchdowns to 25 interceptions and had a passer rating of over 110 over those 4 years. So we're like, okay, that's the standard. So the 3 years leading into this year, when the passer rating cumulatively, is 97, and the touchdowns to interceptions are only 67 to 12, we're like, oh, down year. Ignoring the fact that those 3 years, those 3 down years, 1 year he broke his collarbone, so you can almost throw it out. Another year, they went 13-3 and went to the conference championship game. And the other year, he had 25 touchdowns to 2 picks. Those were his down seasons. And so, yeah, I understand why Rodgers would be frustrated. He's like, guys, you're right. I'm not having my 40-touchdown, 6-interception MVP season. But I'm still better than everyone doing this except for maybe 3 or 4 people. And maybe I still can be even the best person doing this. So I echo these comments 1,000%.
I know, but now you guys put your old buddy Kevin Wildes in a bad spot. Because I love Aaron Rodgers. I love Pat McAfee. I loved the clip. But I want to be the guy, you know, at the bar playing acoustic guitar, playing all the hits that you love. And now I got to turn and be like, and here's a song about the day my dog died. Like, what? Nobody wants to hear this, but here we go. Here comes the full screen that I got to do. Even though I'm supposed to be the energy fun guy, I got to be the negative guy. Aaron Rodgers was not a career year, buddy. Weeks 9 through 17, these were pretty bad stats. So you heard some criticism, but what do you want the media to do? This is not the career being yards per. You're 13-3. I'll try to say that. That was good. But it's not like this was totally unwarranted criticism, Nick. And I'm also mad at you for putting me in this spot of having to be the accuracy guy.
Well, you don't have to do anything. I didn't put you in any spot. But listen, man, you're right. You are the funny guy on the show. I'm supposed to be the numbers guy. And in back-to-back segments, you've created these wildly misleading full screens. You can't do, here's his numbers over part of the season. That's not fair. It's like, hey, let's throw out the first 8 weeks when he was awesome, and then the last 8 weeks when he wasn't as good.
That was
like,
the narrative.
so I just think, go ahead, Wildes, go.
That was the narrative, that he fell off. That he's like, oh, he's like, he got a tired arm. I don't even know how to make a full screen. I asked Dusty to do it.
No.
No,
I mean, this
know,
year's
but
just
Brian,
this year's just
like
amazing for him.
I'm sorry, Brandon.
No,
Go
I was just going to say, Brian, that this year he's having an amazing year. He's up there with Russell Wilson and also Josh Allen for MVP. I'm going to continue to say that this guy is playing lights out. He's on pace, Brian. A-Rod is on pace for 4,800 yards and 52 touchdowns. He's having an amazing year.
Well, what he's doing is playing with the chip on his shoulder. No one's talking about him, and Kevin talked about the end of how he finished last year. Everyone's talking about Patrick Mahomes and all these younger quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And everyone's forgot about how good Aaron Rodgers has been. All he's doing is just go out there and show you. And then every now and then he'll tell you about it, which I think is pretty cool because you don't hear it very much in this day and time. But listen, Aaron Rodgers goes out there and continues to be the best quarterback that he can be. And I'm talking about without some of his best weapons. Adams and Lazard weren't even there this past weekend. How good can he be with these guys? And again, last year, even with that down part of the last half of the season, they won a bunch of games. 13-3 as a quarterback, which is your goal is to win, is nothing to sneeze at. I think Aaron Rodgers continues to be one of the best in our game.
So 2 quick points. One is in defense of my old buddy Kevin Wildes. He's absolutely right that narrative was out there, and it's one of the reasons why some of the smart analytics folks thought the Packers were going to take a big step back, that 13-3 record was inflated, that they were not going to be able to duplicate it, and some of them were questioning, you know, has Aaron Rodgers' prime ended, and we just didn't notice it. Rodgers is trying to remind everyone that, no, it can keep going. But the other narrative here that was going on 18 months ago, and we can't just ignore it, was Aaron Rodgers, coach killer. Aaron Rodgers and McCarthy can't get along. Aaron Rodgers can't get along with people. Forced McCarthy out. The man's got a street named after him. Forced him out. And then it was, you know, Aaron Rodgers, is he going to get along with Matt LaFleur? Meanwhile, McCarthy's in a barn in Appleton, Wisconsin, just grinding tape, going to PFF, learning all these things. Smash cut to right now. Rodgers is on pace for an all-time year. Mike McCarthy's team is 1-3. And while the offense is playing well in Dallas, you are the head coach of the whole team, Jenna. So I feel, you know, Colin Cowherd talks about who won the divorce. Right now, it's pretty lopsided. When we've seen Aaron Rodgers in the year and a half since McCarthy was there, and McCarthy in his year and a half since Aaron Rodgers, and he's split.
All right, we talked about one side of the marriage. We're going to talk about the other side of the marriage. That is the Dallas Cowboys. They are one defense shy of a great team. We'll break down who agrees with that next. Brian Westbrook, thank you so much. Sunday on Fox. Catch Carson Wentz and the Eagles as they take on Big Ben, Juju, and the Steelers, or other regional action. Check your local listings for the game in your area. You can watch it on the Fox Sports app. Time now for some stories to start your morning, sponsored by Midas, open since 1956. Let's talk about them Cowboys. Their Super Bowl hopes seemingly dashed, not just because they're 1-3, but because of why they're 1-3. That defense, the worst scoring defense in the league, a defense allowing more than 36 points a game. Dak Prescott forced to play catch-up every time he's out. Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman, former Cowboy great, came down hard on this defense. Listen to this.
To me, I'd be embarrassed as a player to put that kind of performance on film that's going to be seen by your peers for the rest of the season. It was just not very good, and I know Mike Nolan is in the firing line right now. But, you know, over the years, you could always point to the way that the Cowboys played defensively. I mean, they played with great effort. They just flew around 11 guys and didn't always play great, but it was always there on film as far as the effort level. And I mean, I didn't see one guy on defense that I'd say had a good game. And the last touchdown that Odell Beckham scored when they'd cut it to 3 points, you know, they had all the momentum. If they make a stop there defensively, they probably win the game.
All right, Brandon, what was your reaction to what Troy Aikman had to say? He didn't hold back talking about this Dallas defense.
Yeah, definitely truth to what Troy talked about on the effort side. But, you know, for me, the bigger problem is more on the mental side and its scheme. And before I go into all these points, let's just go to the film. The eye in the sky don't lie. So I want to highlight 2 plays to show you what I believe is the biggest breakdowns in this defense. These guys just don't know where to go and when to get there. So you look at this. As a wide receiver, as an offensive guy, when I'm watching film, I should be able to understand what they're running pre-snap. Even if I was still playing, when I line up at this, when I get to the line of scrimmage, right away, I need to look at my triangle, the corner, the safety, the linebacker, and right away I know if it's cover 3, if it's cover 1, if it's quarters. So when I'm watching this right now, Jenna, I can't tell you what they're running. I believe it's quarters. And what quarters is the corner, the safety, and the corner has a quarter of the field. So when you look at this breakdown, if it is quarters, because I don't know, because guys are out of position, it's not on the front side safety. It's on the backside safety and the corner. They have to be on one accord. They have to be on one string. If this front side guy runs a post, the person who make that play is the corner if he doesn't have anybody in his zone, or that safety. So they need to simplify what they're doing and get on the same page. You go to the next play. You go the Hurst play versus the Atlanta Falcons, which was a big play in this game, and they should have won it, obviously. What is this? Is this cover 1? Is it cover 3? When we watch film and you see guys going across the line of scrimmage in motion, you'll see a guy running with them. We know it's man. It's an indicator for us. We see guys drop into zones, and it's zone. But I'm seeing a cornerback, Awuzie. Did I say that right, Nick? Awuzie run with the receiver. And I'm like, that's man. But everybody else is playing zone, and now you got an open wide receiver with nobody around him. This is the breakdown for me. And Coach Nolan is known to be a guy that is extremely smart, but he can overcomplicate things He needs to simplify what he's doing, especially when he has a banged-up secondary. Coach Nolan, he tries to create defenses where everyone can make plays. And I don't think that's the case now, and especially when you have Dak Prescott on the other side playing lights out, and you could potentially have the best receiving corps in the NFL right now with the 3 wide receivers and a tight end. So if I'm Coach Nolan, I kind of take a step back. I put the ball in Dak's hand, say, hey, buddy, you know, clean up the turnovers, give us an opportunity. I will make these guys go 11-play, 12-play drives.
Okay, so you talk about Coach Nolan. You've got the mighty, mighty New York Giants offense coming up with Danny Dimes, who has as many touchdowns on his record right now as Jarvis Landry, and 14 sacks. This is the immovable object versus the unstoppable force, but the exact opposite. The offense is the worst. The yards per game is the worst. The touchdowns, like, Nick, if the Cowboys cannot stop this offense, there has to be a change in Dallas. I can't believe that the Cowboys brass is going to sit back and say, like, let's give it another shot. Let's wait till week 6. Let's wait till correct. You know, the honeymoon's over. You got to start making some moves if you lose to the Giants.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. And listen, Daniel Jones has played 16 career games. He has turned the ball over in 15 of them. He's turned the ball over multiple times in 11 of them. He only has 1 clean game in his career. If the Cowboys can't force turnovers on him, then who the hell are they going to force turnovers on? And, Brandon, that is part of the issue here. They're running this complex scheme. There's supposed to be a cost-benefit to it. The cost is guys might get a little confused. You allow a few more big plays. The benefit is supposed to be, but you make up for it by making splash plays, either tackles in the backfield for a loss, sacks, or even most importantly, forcing turnovers. And they're the second worst team in the league at forcing turnovers. They've forced 2. Yeah. They're getting no pressure. They're turning.
They can't because your boy can't get pressure. I said they can't because your boy can't get pressure on them. And then you have nobody in the secondary.
Right. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence isn't getting any pressure. He hasn't had a sack in over 400 snaps. And the secondary as a whole, pass defense as a whole, show it. They're turning every quarterback into Patrick Mahomes. Well, guess what? If you play Patrick Mahomes every week, your team's going to stink. That's Mahomes this year. That's the Cowboys' opposition. Those numbers are the same. Like, that's a disaster. You can't. Every time it's like, who we got on the schedule this week? Oh, it's Mahomes again. Well, you're going to lose. and this is what they're turning these quarterbacks into, Brandon. Yeah.
Brandon, quickly, let me ask you, is this just about the players playing better, or is it because the scheme is, in fact, too complicated? If Nolan comes in and simplifies everything, do we see a better defense, or is it on the actual players?
It's both, Jenna, and you also got to think about, personnel, who's available. They're banged up. They don't have guys. But who's out there right now that could potentially help you? You need somebody, a veteran that can come in and help. You have Eric Reed, who had a career, all-time career season last year. Why is he still on the streets? Well, let's not go into that discussion, but you have Eric Reed out there. Go sign him. Maybe Tony Jefferson. Maybe even Eric Berry, who I know is working extremely hard right now for that next opportunity. Is he Eric Berry from the Kansas City Chiefs? No, but he's better than what you have right now. And you also have Earl Thomas waiting out there. And then on the other side, from a coaching, when you talk about scheme, you have George Edwards, who's sitting right behind Coach Nolan. It's too early. Coach Nolan has another week or two to get this fixed. But George Edwards sit behind Coach Zimmer for the last 5 years in Minnesota, and he's more than capable. Anytime I went against a Coach Zimmer coach defense, I hated it. I go back to the Cincinnati Bengals day when he was a defensive coordinator. I hated it. Chicago Bears when he was the head coach, and in the Vikings, I hated it. So this guy's more than capable of getting it done.
All right, let's finish up the show talking about last night's big finals. Miami, Lakers, LeBron and AD in cruise control most of the night. The King finished 28-12-8. Anthony Davis with a clutch three less than a minute to go. That sealed it for the Lakers. Miami did get Bam Adebayo back, but the Lakers seem to have no answer for everything the Heat threw at them. Lakers get the win. They're now 1 win away from their 17th title in franchise history. All right, Nick, break it down. What was the key to this Lakers win last night?
All right, so it's twofold. On the defensive end, Anthony Davis reminded the world why he should have won Defensive Player of the Year, why he's the best defensive player in basketball. It's not just because, and Wildes pointed this out off the air, and it's a great point. He was scaring guys out of even attempting layups. Like they had open layups where they heard like the ghost of Anthony Davis, so they passed it out. And he guarded Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, who, by the way, guaranteed a victory and said the Lakers were in trouble. But it's neither here nor there. So Anthony Davis on the defensive end. And on the offensive end, LeBron James. LeBron James was not good in the first half. Thankfully, he was sensational down the stretch. He has one weakness in his game. It's free throw shooting, and he was 7 of 7 in the fourth quarter. He embarrassed Tyler Hero late. He had an unbelievable turnaround jumper in the fourth. He had a play where he split the defense to get an and one, and their only defense for him in the fourth was to foul him. Jay Crowder just kept hacking him. But the other element here, Wildes, is the Lakers this year have been like a baseball team with Mariano Rivera as a closer. It's like the Yankees in their heyday. If you're leading after 3, the game is over. We've literally never seen anything quite like this in NBA history. Undefeated when leading after 3. The other teams closest on that list, the 72-win Bulls, an all-time champion Celtics team with 3 Hall of Famers in Sam Jones, Bill Russell, and Hondo. And look, LeBron's last year in Cleveland. So while it's LeBron teams his last 2 healthy years, they end games after 3 quarters. They're 106-1 when leading after 3 quarters, which I don't know if the opposition knows it, but LeBron knows it. And so they're just playing a different game than everybody else, which is why a game that seemed in doubt at halftime, Wildes, was never in doubt to me in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree. I think the series is over. LeBron's not losing a 3-1 lead. And is it too soon to start talking about Finals MVP? And I was shocked to see the gap between Anthony Davis and LeBron. And I feel like the narrative is out there that LeBron is going to win Finals MVP. But I want to put up a graphic that if you take the Lakers' loss out of it, you can make a strong case that Anthony Davis is the MVP. He's had more points.
Oh, no.
Oddly, he's losing rebounds. He's had a better field goal percentage, shooting better from 3. Obviously has more blocks, and he has more phantom blocks too, where they're not even attempting stuff. So I know that the media wants to give it to LeBron because LeBron James's name is no longer LeBron James. It's in his 35-year-old LeBron James, in his 17th year LeBron James. But you can make a case that AD
is the MVP. And we're going to see on Friday.
Brandon.
We're going to see on Friday how they place Anthony Davis can take this.
Nick, take it. Listen, I want to give my take, but yours is way more important right now. Please take it from me right now, because that graph was just horrible. That graph was horrible.
How dare you?
AD has no chance to be the MVP.
I don't want to say he has no chance, but all LeBron's doing is averaging more points, more rebounds, more assists throughout the series. And that graph left off intentionally assists when one of the guys going for MVP is the team's point guard and led the whole NBA in assists. So let's take off let's remove AD's 15-point game. Then let's also remove LeBron's biggest statistical edge, and let's include blocks per game instead. Let's do that.
Wow,
if you do all those things, then maybe it's close. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind.
You want the graphic to be.
Go back, rebuild it. Have a great day, everyone.